Morning, everybody. All right, lots of parties last night, I take it. Let's try that again. Yeah, lots of parties? Good parties? Cool. Well, good morning. Much better. Welcome to Malware Hunting with the Sysinternals tools. My name is Mark Rasinovich. And this morning, I'm going to take you on a tour with the Sysinternals tools for analyzing and cleaning malware off of systems. And this quote nicely summarizes the whole motivation for this presentation, which the sad fact is that a significant percentage of malware that people are running into today is not detected by antivirus. And that's because the antivirus companies need to find the malware and analyze it and then generate signatures and then push it out. So there's a lag between the time that the virus appears in the wild and the time that you get it cleaned. You can see this is from a Google report that just came out a few weeks ago, where they've got a technique that uses reputation-based heuristics to identify malware, and they sampled 10,000 pieces of malware they found just sitting out on the web and found that less than 40% of the binaries were detected at the time they found the binaries by major antivirus engines. So this is really the reason for why you might need to use the Sysinternals tools to go clean malware off a system or analyze it. How many people, by the way, have been infected by malware at one point or another? Wow. Okay, how about your family members? Have you cleaned malware for family members? Okay. How about, how many people are here today because you got malware right now? Anybody? Yeah. I'll clean that off for you if you let us see your browser history. Yeah. So what I hope to get across in this talk is to show you some tools and techniques for going about determining if you've got malware, figuring out where that malware is, what it's doing on your system, and then cleaning it off. The tools that I'm going to show you are tools that are used by professional antivirus researchers as well, actually, but they use them in the context of a kind of first phase reconnaissance of an infection, where they'll use the tools to get an idea of how the malware operates and then use other tools like debuggers, disassemblers, tracers to go and dig deeper so that they can find the signatures. But just with the information I'm going to give you here, as you'll see with the demonstrations I have, you'll be able to clean or detect malware of the most common types. In fact, I've got samples of some of the most common types. Now, there's antivirus solutions out there on the market. Here's one. It's called Sysinternals Antivirus. I think I don't know how to feel about these kinds of things. Proud or dismayed or disturbed, but there's an antivirus engine called Sysinternals Antivirus, and don't use it because I didn't write it. And it's really not very good because it's actually malware. And what really pisses me off about this thing is they don't even link to Sysinternals. So the steps that I've got here for cleaning malware off a system are the steps that I came up with back in 2004, 2005 time frame. And back then, malware was operating quite differently than it is today, or large segments of malware anyway. Back then, malware was just infesting systems with adware, spyware, crap popping up everywhere, downloading tons of more spyware. So you'd have these spyware downloaders, and they'd make the systems boot really slowly and take forever to log in, and have pop-ups everywhere. Very noisy types of malware. And the formula that I came up with was first disconnect from the network. And the reason that I came up with that is because of these downloading pieces of malware, I'd start cleaning and analyzing a system, and the downloaders would start pulling down more malware while I was in the process of cleaning, and so I couldn't keep up with what was going on. So disconnecting from the system would stop the malware from the system from getting reinfected or infected with more malware. But another reason why even today with the more stealthy kind of malware that doesn't do this kind of pulling down stuff actively is that if you detect malware on a system, you want to disconnect it from the network so that you can stop the exfiltration of data off the system. So you've already probably losing data, you might lose more of it. So disconnecting from the network is one of the steps in the process. Next, this is the reconnaissance phase. What is going on with the system? Obviously, you've detected some symptoms somehow. So you've seen rogue network traffic coming off this thing. You might have seen a pop-up, apps don't launch. is to identify which processes are potentially malicious. And then once you've identified them and have some confidence that you've identified them, then terminate them. So get them out of the way so that they're not active and interfering with the rest of the cleaning process. Then find the places how they auto-activate, delete those, and then go delete the files just as a final precaution. In this process, it's not necessarily going to be a complete process. You're not necessarily going to identify everything, all aspects of the malware. So this is why I go as far as saying delete the malware files even after you've deleted the activation points, because in the worst, in the best case, you're just cleaning crap off your computer. In the best case, you might be breaking malware that you haven't completely cleaned. So if you left the files there, it might still be operable, but you deleting whatever you see could, disable it. And then finally, you might have missed something. Malware might be coming back. So rinse, lather, repeat. So reboot the system. Look for the symptoms that you saw the first time, and if you don't see them, then you might be good to go. Now, I want to make a clarification point here, because a lot of people have this philosophy of, if you have malware on a system, wipe it. That's just security 101, they say. Wipe the system. Don't try to clean malware off it. I have more of the principle of let's be pragmatic about it. If you can have some confidence that you've identified the malware, then clean it off. Especially in the case where you might have your mom with tons of stuff on her system, and if you've got a good idea that you clean the malware off, better save the wiping of her system and everything that she's got on there rather than face the wrath of your mom. And I know that even big companies follow this approach. They'll have domain controllers, for example, infected with malware, and the cost of flattening those domain controllers, basically rebuilding the domain, is so high that they will rather have experts come in and say, yeah, we're confident, we understand it, and wipe it. How many people have worked at a company where you've had a domain controller with malware on it? Let's see. Anybody? Anybody? Nobody? All right. Oh, there's one person over there. And did you flatten your domain? No. What? I was just kidding. No, that's okay. All right, let's talk about identifying processes first. And again, this is a list that I came up with for characteristics that identify malware, again, back in 2005. Processes that have no icon in their image, that have no description or company name in their version information, so they're kind of anonymous. They say that they're from Microsoft, but they don't have a valid digital signature, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. They live in the Windows directory or the user profile, as opposed to the common place where most programs, at least pre-modern phase, got installed in the program files directory. Or they're packed, which means compressed or encrypted, and I'll talk more about that later. They include strange URLs in their strings, or they have TCP IP endpoints open to Russia or China. Or they have suspicious DLLs hosted within them, so they're a benign process that's a host carrying malware. This list of characteristics I thought was to be obsolete in a few years after I came up with them, but it turns out the sad state of situation is that most malware still identifies itself by meeting at least one of these criteria, in fact many. And you'll see the examples that I show you today, almost all of them exhibit more than one of these, and the sad fact is that they don't need to do things to take themselves off this list, because it's so easy to spread and so easy to stay kind of hidden in plain sight with this that they don't need to, they're going to do the bare minimum of work. How many people debug or look at systems with Task Manager? Wow, it's a bold admission in a Sysinternals talk, because first of all, you're kind of walking through a room blindfolded when you're using Task Manager, but second, I've got a better tool that I'm going to show you. It's called Process Explorer. Some people call it Super Task Manager. It has lots of troubleshooting capabilities. In fact, that was my original goal with this, was to help you debug DLL problems, file lock problems, hung process problems, and in fact I've got a session this afternoon which is all about using Process Explorer for those scenarios. But what I'm going to focus on here is its malware cleaning capabilities. Let's pull it up. Oh, by the way, this is not a disclosure. This is what blue would look like if you installed a third-party start menu. So let's go back here. Oh, by the way, want to mention Sysinternals.